Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pints with Ayre. I'm Brent Heffley, the Sales and Marketing Director for Ayre Acoustics, and I am here, as always, with our Senior Engineer and VP, Ariel Brown, and our CEO and Expert Technician, Ryan Berry. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone out there. Hope you're doing well. We're in May 2021, hopefully seeing some light at the end of the COVID tunnel.
But what a year it's been.
Yeah, what a year it's been. Just, uncertainty, nuttiness. Yeah, crazy. But before we dive into that, let's talk about beer, because that's always a good way to start just about anything, right? Cool. So I found one, and you guys are going to think this is a label purchase, I know, but it wasn't only a label purchase, have you say. It's the Bear Lick Brewing. It's their Punk Rock Time
Nice
IPA. Nice. So Bear Lick's up in Portland, and yeah, I guess we should have our theme song be like No FX or some swinging udders or something like that for this episode with the
Cookie Monster on there.
Yes, it's what's his name?
It's like Elmo, but a blue one.
It's like a blue Elmo. It's the kinder, gentler Cookie Monster, right? the one who's had a couple pints.
I got you.
What did you guys dig out there?
So it's still May, so still in the mood for some good German beers, although that's year round, really. But
yeah.
Anyway, so we went with Augustiner Edelstoff.
Nice. I like that.
I don't think I've had this one before. I don't know if we've had this one when we are usually there. I know we have a lot of Augustiner when we're there, but this particular brew,
right?
I don't remember.
Right. After 1 a.m., it's kind of hard to tell what they're bringing in the steins, though.
Yeah,
so
I don't think it's the normal offering of beers that they have in 99% of the places in Munich.
Yeah. No, that looks good. Is it a Pilsner? Ooh, wow! Look at that.
Yeah, it's nice and light. It's really smooth. It's
beauty. I'll have to go hunt that one down. I haven't seen that one in the bottle before.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I've been visiting there. You've got either in Boulder or Longmont. We've got a couple really big liquor stores that have massive selections that you can build your own 6-packs with, and so you can a lot of one-offs, and so I found a bunch that some really unique ones, one that are really hard to find.
Yeah,
so it's been really fun.
Very cool. That's one of the good reasons. Another good reason to keep doing Pints with Ayre. All right. Well, seems like it's been a whirlwind of a week, and I know for you Ryan, that chasing parts and pieces is becoming increasingly difficult. And we've heard this around, but it's really interesting when you start to get to the nitty-gritty of like, oh, those people just doubled or tripled their lead time for that part we're almost out of. And like, yeah, what's going on out there?
Well, I mean, it's not only that, but there's a lot of competition for parts as we're all realizing more and more that this is not a temporary or short-term thing. And it's been problematic in a lot of ways. So, one of the things that you don't realize is that, okay, we know that parts are getting low, make sure you have your orders in, But one of the things noticed is, I try to get to, doing all emails every day, and as of late, it's just like, oh, it's 3, 4, or 5 days out on some of these emails, and I'm like, what is going on? And come to the realization that parts, you usually could do a whole order in about an hour, get all your parts in for a kit and get them all scheduled and everything. But nowadays, it's oftentimes you'll be chasing a single part for an hour where okay, it's not here, it's here, or those guys have it, but they want to charge you 19 to 20 times the price for that part that they used to charge. And these other guys, they said they had it, and then you ordered it, and 2 weeks later they come back and go, oh yeah, remember how we said we had it? Well, we're just kidding. Good luck. And now you're 2 weeks behind, and you're playing catch up on trying to get that figured out. So it's a real problem, and it's some of it we expected. We saw the AKM plant have the issues they had, and knew that there was going to be trouble there. Other parts have been very surprising. You know, silicone with a lot of the suppliers has been kind of rationed out to the suppliers, so they have a hard time manufacturing their chips as well. So it kind of goes all the way back to the, you know, the basic raw materials as being the problem.
We're out of
And,
sand. We're out of sand.
Right.
Can you believe that?
Things, you know, exactly.
Yeah.
Or
Sand and
not
cardboard.
converting
The
it
whole
fast
world's
enough.
going to come to a screeching halt.
Or cardboard or wood or resin,
Yeah.
anything else that you can think of, you know, is all of a sudden we don't have it anymore. So, you know, it's hard to say if consumption's really that much higher. I know that some suppliers are definitely going out, big names are going out and they're kind of locking down everything to make sure that they're okay for their business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some of that whole toilet paper hoarding mentality a little bit. It's like, oh, the supplies are getting low, I'm going to hoard some to make sure we're okay for this, you know, for the next year.
which puts us as little guys kind of at a difficult position where we're either hoping to get in ahead of them or we're hoping that we can sneak in and, you know, there was the last end of a reel somewhere that we can snag and we can have half of a reel and be able to work off of that for a while this whole thing is continuing to be a kind of a pain in the butt.
Because normal, even in good times, we're like searching, because as a small manufacturer, you know, we have a hard time sometimes meeting minimum quantities. When someone's like, yeah, do you want 10,000 or 50,000 of those? And we're like, I was thinking like 800. Do you have 800? You know,
sometimes, I mean, that's not too much of a problem for us. Fortunately, we have really good partners in that respect, but we do have a lot of really customized parts. So, you know, you're not going to find the capacitors we use sitting on a shelf somewhere in this guy's warehouse in Kansas, for example, because it's a part that when Ayre orders it, the company says, okay, this is Ayre's order. We're going to make them this way for Ayre. We're going to make exactly as many as they ordered, and then we're going to send them out to Ayre. And so there's not spares sitting around. So then when they get caught behind with all of these generalized orders for their standardized parts, and they're backed up for months and months and months, that affects us as well, because now we're, after all of those parts get made, and we have to join the queue just like everybody else. So it's definitely impacted our lead times, where parts would be 2 weeks. Now we're seeing up to a year lead time on some parts, and it's pretty scary. And like I said, it was, some of it was expected with some of these chips, and then other ones have been really surprising, you know, with capacitors and resistors now being threatened again like they were years ago. And we all had to play a really careful game of making sure we rationed and got what we needed and were taken care of to make sure we could continue to make products. So it's led to everything taking 10 times longer than it used to. And now, you know, between that and then getting the parts in and then finally being able to manufacture the parts, and the lead times is everybody's trying to get everything cranked through at the same time through the contract manufacturers that do the board assemblies. It all adds steps. And so nothing is, you know, 1 year on its own, but it's 2 weeks here, 1 month here, 3 weeks here. And, you know, the CX8's a great example of that, you know, where we wanted to get the CX8 listed out by the end or beginning of this month.
Right.
We're now running into, okay, the chassis actually took a little bit longer because the sheet metal's being rationed out, and now we got the chassis in, and the boards are having issues because the raw material needed to make the boards is being rationed out, and down the line. So, you know, it's ultimately nobody's problem but ours, of course. but it does lead to pretty shocking delays, and it's something that all the companies are having to navigate too. You know, between that and price hikes and everything else that's coming up the whole production line here, it's something that we all kind of struggle to try to make sure we're doing the best we can and keeping the prices down as best we can, so we don't have to do unfortunate, you know, examinations of retail prices and all that. So
yeah, I'm sure anyone out there listening that's in the industry or in any manufacturing industry is just nodding their head going, amen. Like it's a problem everywhere.
We all hate it. I mean, it's not something any of us likes to do. And you know, I've been really fortunate. I'm working with some guys that have helped us out, and we've been able to help out some other manufacturers, and you know, we'll continue trying to fight the good fight to get products out to people's hands, because we all want.
But it is amazing how much extra time it just sucks up out of the day. right?
Absolutely.
It just
Yep.
evaporates there. So, well, as long as we don't get shortages on hops and barley, and aluminum. Maybe aluminum could be the Achilles heel for the beer industry.
Aluminum's on the list, so that glass, I don't know, it's sand.
As long as I don't break too many of them, I think I can survive the.
There you go. I'll be drinking out
Uh,
of plastic beer cans one day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to that whole kind of situation is that, it even starts affecting the design process, in that,
Oh yeah.
that either early or even sometimes late in my design process, I need to be watching the availability of specific parts that I'm intending to use, and basically gauging, our confidence that we're going to be able to get that part, or whether we need to pre-order that part because it's that critical. Yeah, so even like the CX8, I mean, I designed in, I actually changed some parts based on availability at the time.
Mhm.
And then once we finished design and started ordering parts, some of that had shifted, and it was a little scary for
Yeah. And I mean, it shifted a lot. I mean, some of these parts were like, oh, these are definitely in stock. This is not a part we're gonna have to worry about, because there's, hundreds of thousands of them out there, or tens of thousands or whatever.
Yep.
And this is not gonna be a problem. And then all of a sudden it was.
Yeah, 2 weeks later.
It was rapid. I mean, one of them I had actually was placing the order, and I watched as 10,000 disappeared out of DigiKey when I was placing the order, and then went to the next place and they had 4,000, and those disappeared right out of the cart. Like by the time I hit the submit button on the order, they're like, oh, this part's back ordered now. I was like, wait, there was 4,000 a second ago.
Wow.
And I chased them all the way out of the US and had to order them directly from the factory in Canton and Taiwan before I was able to actually get the parts in. And it was pretty scary. I mean, I'd never encountered something like that before, but I mean, it was some company going through and buying just tens of thousands of these things just to make sure they had the stock.
Yeah. Yeah. Nutty stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, enough of those woes.
It's all the fun parts of manufacturing. I mean,
it is.
Charlie used to always say, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right. Definitely not easy. Definitely not easy. As easy as we make it look, behind the scenes, it's not easy.
And I think more than anything, this video hopefully serves as not as us making excuses or anything, but kind of giving some visibility into what's going on in the background. And when there's questions of why isn't this out yet, or what's the status of this, or why haven't you released this thing, we're doing the best we can, honestly, and we want as much as you to get these out the door, because this is what keeps the lights on, and pays the bills and everything else.
Yep.
I don't like sitting on 75% of the parts and have this one chip holding me back from being able to ship out completed units to people. So it's not something we like dealing with either. We are getting them out as fast as we can. I'm always happy. Always send me an email if you're ever wondering. I'll do my best to answer the email as soon as possible to let you know what the status is. I'm generally pretty forthright and honest about everything. So, I don't try to hide it or pull any punches in the information I'll pass on to you. But it is one of those scenarios right now where it's kind of changes week to week, and I don't have all the visibility at the moment. So, and what I tell you one week might change the week later, just because we got new information, and we'll do the best to get them done for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, cool. So I think we're going to do a couple of viewer questions. Thank you everyone who sent in questions. It's been great. We've addressed some of them, in viewer question episodes. We've addressed others just as a course of a topic or whatever. So when you have questions, email them to us at pints@ayre.com, because we love to see that. It's always a good piece for us.
Absolutely.
So there's a couple today. One is about phono cartridges, and there's moving magnet and moving coil phono cartridges, and they operate differently, obviously, within the head of the cartridge. But how does that affect what happens inside a phono stage in the electrical section coming in? Everyone's probably seen a phono stage or a receiver or something that has that switch on it. You have MC or MM, but what's that do? What happens internally there?
So that primarily, yeah, it comes down to gain, because moving coils are typically much lower output, and moving magnets are typically higher output. And so, on the order of a factor of 10 or sort of 20, even as far as
So
the
a
solar.
lot. Yeah.
And so the big difference, the primary difference that you have to account for in the Phono stage is just is the voltage gain. You need more gain with a moving coil.
Okay.
There's some products will also allow for different loading options, because I typically see people want different bit more distinct loading options with a moving coil. They often want a lower loading impedance.
Uh-huh.
Some people want to put a load capacitance on there. And so most of our Phono preamps, and even our upcoming ones, they didn't have selectable and customizable load impedance, as well as variable gain. And so we can handle a pretty decent range of gain requirements to cover both moving magnet as well as moving coil.
Yeah, and that's important, because without something like that, you have to have a Phono preamp, for example, that's compatible with moving magnet if you have a moving magnet cartridge, and vice versa with a moving coil. So you need to have something where the preamp can be selected in those kind of modes, so that way you can be able to play either one on it.
Yeah, there are various kind of add-on products. It used to be a bit more common to have a external step-up transformer in front of the preamp used with moving coils. I think that's quite a bit less common now, because it's really not that difficult to design a preamp to be able to handle it.
Right.
And so, but so the trick there is that it needs to be, when you need, let's say 10 dB or 20 dB extra gain, that that can hurt your signal noise. And so you really need a low noise amplifier stage, or 1 or 2 or 3 stages in some products. So that needs to be designed properly, so that the extra gain does not introduce a lot of extra noise.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Now, in say something like the P5 or the upcoming PX8, do we have 2 separate gain stages in that case, or is that selection just changing the gain in the one main section that we have?
Yeah, even for moving magnet, it requires enough gain that we already have 2 gain stages already. So the number of gain stages doesn't change. We basically change the gain of one of those stages to be able to adjust that overall gain.
Okay.
One gain stage stays fixed, and then the gain of the other stage is the variable.
Fantastic. All right. Mystery solved. If anyone has questions or comments about that, let us know. So that's
there's there's a whole other discussion that we don't really want to start here, as far as like the actual benefits of moving magnet versus moving coil. It's pretty easy to look up online what the physical difference between the two is. It's really simple, and what the benefits of them are. And there's a lot of trade-offs, but
basically what they're described there are, there's a magnet and a coil in there, and you effectively are picking which one's doing the moving when the stylus is vibrating essentially in the groove. So one's a much more expensive process to do, and there's benefits.
One is much more delicate, much more robust, and again, like the big difference is just the voltage output that they produce, as far as how it affects the preamp.
Yep.
Cool.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, our next question, you touched on it briefly there, is signal to noise. So, we talk a lot about signal to noise ratios. We talk about it in DACs and DAC chips and in products. But we had a question come across is, what is the actual sonic benefit of I think it's kind of a multi-part question. What's the sonic benefit of having a bigger signal to noise ratio, particularly when you have a room that isn't completely silent? You know, when you've got residual noise in the room, you know, does that offset that? And I think the other part of that is how much signal to noise ratio is enough. Like, you know, is it kind of like oversampling? Like you can just keep going to the sky. Like there's obviously some,
Right.
you know, limit out there in signal to noise more so than with the sampling rates. But where do you stop hearing a difference in signal to noise ratio?
Yeah, that's a pretty tough question, and you know, I don't have a number. I've never personally experimented with that as far as measuring. Okay, what is that threshold? You know, I don't think I've actually experienced that.
Uh-huh.
So you know, it's important. You but I just know that, you know, the higher the number, the better, and that's the ratio between the signal and the noise. And so, you know, if that, you know, because you don't want to be throwing away signal.
Right.
The lower the signal noise, so essentially the higher the noise is in reference to the signal, that means that very low amplitude signal will then be masked and essentially erased by the noise. And the other key there is that you know, when you have a chain of components, you have a source, a preamp, a power amp, for instance. If you are losing signal due to poor signal noise in the source, it's gone forever. You
Right.
cannot retrieve that anymore. It is lost in the noise, literally. There's no way to get that back. And so in a way, you could consider that it's, you know, the signal noise ratio is the most important further up the chain.
Uh-huh.
Now it's and then but it really applies to every link in the chain. But again, like I don't know at what, you know, numerical value it becomes an issue, and how that translates to an actual room and the actual residual noise in the room.
Right.
I don't have any actual rule to
Well,
provide there.
it's tricky too, right? Because you can have something like a record that has a much lower signal to noise ratio
Yeah.
than a CD or a digital stream, but still sounds incredibly
Phenomenal.
better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that number might be surprisingly low. Where we often spec a lot of our products as greater than 100 dB signal noise. What would actually be obviously audible is probably much lower than that. Somewhere around 60 is just as a complete wild ass guess.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting, difficult but interesting experiment to set up sometime, of actually handicapping a product down,
right?
In a way, like, this one only has 80 dB and this one only has 60, and like, what are the actual differences?
Yeah. And I think the only experience we do have where we've it's not definitive, but in listening tests where we at least know that one of the changes has been better signal noise ratio, is that the impression we get is that you have a much what we call kind of a blacker background, where it just where the music just seems to come from it's more focused, and it's there's less extraneous noise.
Yeah.
And there's that sense of that's a very commonly used term, that is blacker background.
Right. So you get all the little tiny details that aren't obscured or aren't distorted, and they just form that perfect musical note coming out of the blackness.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like Ariel said, you want as much as you can get, essentially, when you're designing a product. So, you're always aiming for making sure that you're doing everything you can to lower that noise floor, and have that SNR as good as possible, quote unquote. It's hard to say, like you said, a record has a lower signal to noise ratio, but there's other things that play there. So would a record with a higher signal to noise ratio, if you could manufacture one, be better sounding? Probably.
Right.
So it's one of those tricky things to answer, but it's effectively you want as much as you can get.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, again, one of the aspects. It's not, it's not the be all end all.
For sure.
So very much like distortion, especially in regards to feedback, where we know that feedback can definitely improve distortion, and it can improve signal noise as well. But it's not just a binary thing. So that.
But what it also does to the sound has negatives.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of weighing what you think is worth more. Is it more important to get that last few signal to noise points on there, or is what the negative feedback do to the sound, at least in our experience with our circuits, does that outweigh that signal to noise ratio benefit? And for us, we obviously chose the no feedback route because we felt it sounded better in the end. So that's where you tend to pick the sound over the numbers.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, great. It's kind of a short episode. Ryan's got to get back to buying parts. I'm going to go out and dig some sand and sell some cardboard because,
Yeah, no kidding. Cut the trees down, I guess.
Right. Evidently, those are in high demand, and I can clear out the shed.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I hope everyone out there is doing well. Email us if you have questions, pints@ayre.com. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.